I think so. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. And our treasurer has a flag for us, I think, for their Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
I
allegiance
pledge allegiance to the flag
United
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Treasurer Rice.
Mhm.
Clerk Cody, would you do our roll call, please?
Clerk Cody here in Union Township, Michigan. Supervisor Milky,
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
Treasurer Rice,
Here, Isabella County, Union Township, Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Trustee Hauk,
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Trustee Brown,
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, State of Michigan.
Trustee Bills,
Here, Isabella County, State of Michigan, Union Township.
Trustee Thering,
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
all are present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval of agenda. I'd be happy to entertain a motion regarding our agenda.
I
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll support.
Motion by Howe, support by Brown, as I heard it.
Yes.
I think Connie was trying to jump in there.
Connie, you can take it.
Discussion? Seeing none, without objection, Clerk Cody, would you find out the result of approving the agenda as presented?
Trustee Bills?
Yeah.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
and Clerk Cody, yes. Oh, yes.
All right, thank you. We have no presentations or public hearings tonight, so with that, we'll open up public comment. Public comment at this time is restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda. This is an opportunity for comments only. Questions of the board will not be answered at this time. For specific answers to questions, please call Township Hall at 989-772-4600. If you're new to Zoom and you move your mouse on the screen, you'll see a participants button. If you click that, your participants panel will be opened. And on that panel at the bottom, there's a raise hand button. If you're calling in, I don't see any phone numbers, but if you happen to be calling in, I think it's *9.
Or 9.
*9. That was from memory. I did all right. If you do speak in public comment, please state your name and address for the record. And with that, we'll open public comment at 7:04 p.m. Seeing no hands, we'll move on and close public comment at 7:04 p.m. Reports, boards, and comments. We do have a couple of items in our packet. My dog's going to bark here. I can see that right now. And my family's in the other room and they don't know. See, there we go. Sorry about that. I do want to lift up, we have the 2 appointments or 2 applications. One being for EDA. If you have seen your packet, Rick Bars, he currently serves on the EDA.
Yep.
Has done a lot in our community. He certainly has my support. So if anybody would entertain a motion to appoint him to the EDA.
I move to appoint Rick Bars to the EDA.
And then can I add, just make sure we address the term. I'm looking for, bear with me. That would be ending
2/13/25.
Thank you. February 13th, 2025.
I will be glad to support Mr. Bars. And
Okay, so motion by Bills, support by Brown. Any discussion on that? I'll just add again that I'm real happy that he's willing to be back on the EDA. It should be a good year.
absolutely.
Seeing no discussion, Clerk Cody, would you take a roll call on the motion to appoint Rick Bars to the EDA, please?
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
and Clerk Cody, yes. All yes.
Very good. I'll add one last comment regarding the EDA. We just found out today that one of the members that I had understood was going to re-up, whose terms is ending, that would be Mike Smith, has decided not to serve again. And so we do have an open spot on the EDA. So if you have someone in mind, encourage them to apply. Okay, with that, we also have another application for the board review. As I've mentioned in previous meetings, I was a little nervous about this because the board review process begins formally really this month, and March 8th is the first public hearing. And at this point, we only had 2 permanent members on a 3-person board. So I was thrilled that we got somebody to serve. My only concern is that Mr. Chowdhury also serves on the EDA, and it's nice to spread that among more community members. But in any event, I'd be happy to entertain a motion if someone so moves.
Brian, I have a question.
Sure.
He would not be able to sit on the board this year, though, would he? He've had time to get training?
There is training still available. I've been checking the calendar. So he could, and then technically, in talking with Mary, you don't have to have the training when you start. You have to have the training within the 2-year period. But I would encourage, if we were to appoint Mr. Chowdhury, I would encourage him to take advantage of the training that's going on right now through the end of February.
Thank you.
And Mr. Golden, just as a note, I checked, we've been having trouble getting a hold of him. So I found an email for him that Mary Vandervries, did I say that right? But we haven't been able to keep him in the communications on the board of review as far as the dates coming up. So hopefully we have one now that we'll be able to communicate with him. But he has certainly indicated that as an alternate, he's hoping not to have to serve. But he's willing to in a pinch.
Yes, and that occasionally does happen.
Right.
I may have his phone number.
Yeah, I can text him as well if we need to. I'm sure Doug and/or Brian does as well.
Okay. Well, I've written back to the board of review saying we're not hearing back from Randy. Would anybody got contact? And Mary was the one that replied and said we did not. It keeps bouncing. His email keeps bouncing, and we don't have a phone number. So I'd be happy to get a phone number from you, Bill, tomorrow if you text me.
Yeah, I'll see if I have it at my shop. I think I might have.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm going to leave it out there for Mr. Chowdhury if anybody's inclined to nominate him.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to nominate Mr. Chowdhury for the Board of Review.
I'll support.
Report, and just for the record, let me check the end date on that too. Mark's probably quicker than I am on this.
12/31.
Your term ending. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
12/31/22.
You good with that, Jeff?
Term ending 12/31/22.
Connie?
I still support that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Further discussion on the motion to appoint Sarjeet Chaudhary to the Board of Review.
I just know you mentioned before, Brian, that he's already on the EDA, and we like to spread things around a little. I mean,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
know
that's,
the last board, that's what we did. We were always discouraging, or not really that we were discouraging people from being on two different boards, but we usually never voted for someone to be on two boards.
yeah, I agree with you. But I also feel like it's really important that we fill that board.
Yeah,
And
we need to fill
I've
it.
been
Yeah.
hunting too, and he's willing to serve.
Right.
But I agree, it's nice to spread it around better if we can. I think Board of Review is probably the hardest one to find people to serve on.
Mhm.
Realtors usually like doing that.
Further discussion? Trustee Thering, excuse me.
Yes, I mean, I'm not as inclined to vote yes, only because he is on another board. I just go along with what Bill had said. If he wasn't on another board, my answer would be yes, absolutely. But I do understand we haven't had any other applicants.
Right.
I
will
don't want
remind
to
you
just,
that- I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
Jane.
No, you go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I'll remind you that Doug also serves on the Planning Commission, Doug LaBelle.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he does. You know what? Thank you.
Did you have something, Trustee Brown? Saw you
No.
raise your hand, I thought.
No, no. No, I have nothing.
But I definitely share that concern, and it's not ideal from my perspective, but any further discussion? Clerk Cody, would you do us the honor, the motion to appoint Sarjeet Chaudhary to the Board of Review for 2-year term?
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
No,
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. So 6 yes, 1 no.
Thank you, Clerk Cody.
I'm sure he'll do
I'll-
a fantastic job. I'm excited for him, but I'm gonna just stand by what I had said.
Appreciate that. So I'm gonna lift up the other boards while we're at this spot briefly. So the EDA still has one to fill, as I mentioned. ZBA, we actually have 2 spots, excuse me. We had one person leave right before the end of their term at the end of the year. So we have 2 spots. I believe one is an alternate. And then sidewalks and pathways, we still have a spot. So as you're out in the community, which is a little tough during COVID, I understand. But you're in a lot of Zoom meetings, I hope. In any event, keep those in mind as you're out in the community. And with that, we'll move to board member reports. And I'm going to start at the top and go clockwise. We'll start with Treasurer Rice.
Taxes, they are due on February 16th, so not a lot of time. I would highly recommend at this point utilizing our Dropbox outside the office. If you want to come in during office hours, you will need to wear a mask and you will need to also fill out our survey. And then otherwise, from the comfort of your own home, you can actually go online to uniontownshipmi.com and follow our bill pay link, bright blue link that says bill pay, and it'll go right to our BSNA website where you can input your information and actually pay online. If you need assistance with that, please feel free to reach out to me and I'm willing to walk you through the steps. extension 228 for me. So, because after the 16th, everybody gets late fees and that. So that's Tuesday. So coming right up. And I just want to reiterate that we do not take postmark. So it needs to actually be at our facilities on the 16th. So
Thank you.
that's all I've got.
Trustee Bills.
I haven't met with anyone from the Saginaw Planning side yet, but I was waiting until the meeting that the city's going to present to the council tomorrow. So on the proposed pathway that Supervisor Milky made me aware of. So I'm excited to see what's going on with that, and that's part of what maybe we can apply for some 2% funds to go with that. That's
Thank you.
all I have.
Clerk Cody.
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Thering.
Yes, I went to or attended the Isabella County Board of Commissioners meeting. I guess the thing that stuck out to me the most is they approved a motion to adopt the Isabella County Board of Commissioners resolution, notice of intent bond resolution declaring official intent to issue limited tax general obligation bonds for the Isabella Community Sheriff's Office and Correction Facility construction project. So that's just, they're moving along step by step towards that project. And that's just one by approving that bond, one of a few more steps before things start to go.
Very much. Trustee Brown.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Trustee Hauk.
Yes, I attended a road commission meeting on the January 28th. They approved the design work for a new bridge that will be constructed over the Chippewa River on Woodruff Road. They ordered their final order of salt for roads for this winter. They ordered 1,200 tons. They purchased a robo-calling system that will, like in inclement weather, it's usually taking 45 minutes to an hour to call all their employees in. This system will make it where it can be done in 4 or 5 minutes. 50% of the work is completed on Isabella Road. That's a project that we're partnering with them on that. And the rest will be completed this spring. That's going to mainly be on the corner of Isabella and High Street where they're going to add that right-hand turn lane. That work will be done by J. Rank, and then Malley Construction. Lincoln and Broomfield, the south corner of Lincoln and Broomfield, well, obviously it's the south corner of Lincoln and Broomfield, but the corner of Lincoln and Broomfield, they've said that work should be started later this fall, and it'll last 3 to 4 months. MDOT's going to be coming out with a bid pack for that pretty soon. They talked about a little bit about their new building, the interior finishes. And then today I was at the corner of Broomfield and Isabella, and I saw the Consumers Power was putting that LED light on that we approved at our last meeting. So that's all I have.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Regarding the Lincoln Broomfield, I know there were discussions in the past about trying to get temporary drive-through, like on some of the cornering properties there, because it's such a bottleneck to get a.
They're working on easements right now to get all that.
Okay, they are. That's something.
Yeah, they were. That's why Jeff was saying earlier they have to get. Trustee Brown is going to be part of that and everything. So.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then for me, just kind of a public notice. Board of Review has our formal public appeal hearings Monday, March 8th and Tuesday, the 9th, from noon until 7:30 p.m. Those will be virtual. And Trustee Bills brought up a pathway that, so I'll try to explain that because I haven't had that discussion with the rest of this board, and it's in its infancy. But essentially, in the meeting that Connie and, or I'm sorry, Trustee Bills and past Trustee Worley and myself had, we were looking at the various 2% projects and looking forward, and some of the discussion came out that it'd be nice to have a pathway on Crawford, North Harris, where Harris turns into Crawford on Pickard there by the Citgo. Pathway up to park system there. And so I had a conversation with the public parks director for the city. And I said, is this something you might have an interest in partnering with? And maybe we can apply for some grants behind it. And he said, oh, we've actually got that budgeted for this year for engineering. So the city's already got a plan, and I shared it with Connie, a plan to move pathways from, well, I can't think of the park right now. Not Nelson Park.
Island?
Island, thank you. I couldn't think of it. From Island Park, essentially out onto Harris, going through the cemetery onto Harris, and then going north to Mission Street or Mission Creek Park and the dog park. And anyways, I've talked to two officials at the city. They're open to looking at possibly partnering on that and seeing if we can get some additional monies to carry that path up to River, with the ultimate goal to bring that from River over to 120 or Old 27, Old Mission, where it can connect to the trails that are north of us. So it was a great opportunity because they're already beginning to do the engineering work this year, slating to do it hopefully next year. And maybe it's something we do together. And that's all I have. All right, with that, we're moving to item 9 on our agenda, consent agenda. I hope I'm sure you've all looked at this, so happy to entertain any motions.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion.
Motion by Bill, support by Thering. Further comments, discussion?
Who looked over the payables?
That would be,
Accounts payable.
myself, and I was fine with what I saw.
Very good. Anything else? Seeing no further discussion, Clerk Cody, give us the honors, please.
Clerk Cody, yes. Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
and Treasurer Rice.
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you, Clerk Cody. That moves us to new business, agenda item 10, first one being item A, discussion, potential approval of budget amendment regarding $425,000 purchase for the fiscal year 2021 sanitary sewer operating budget for the purchase of a Vector truck. Manager Stuhldreher, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, everybody. At your December 16th board meeting, where the board approved the FY21 operating budget, the approved budget did not contain an appropriation for the purchase of a Vector truck. And it occurred to me that during the various budget meetings that this item had not had much discussion, or at least discussion in any detail. And so my sense was at the time of the adoption of the budget that maybe the board didn't have enough information at the time to allow for a thorough, wholesome consideration. Since then, additional information has been provided to the board. Cost of rent, the system size that we have that we need to maintain, the anticipated frequency of use of the truck. And so with this additional information in the hands of the board, I thought it makes sense to try to obtain funding for this. If funding is appropriated, what the administration would do next is scope out the truck, put it out for bid, and then bring back to the board for consideration the actual purchase of the truck. So that's the background I have on it, and I'll just turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Hauk?
Yes, I just did a little more information on things. I know I was the one last time that asked a lot of questions. I called around, talked to a few people, talked to a couple of contractors, and they both said that they feel that we need to purchase a vac truck. I'm in agreement with them. They thought that maybe we wouldn't need to get a new one, that maybe we could get a reconditioned one. One of the contractors told me to get in touch with a guy named Luke Potter. He's the Clare Department of Public Works coordinator. So he and I had a pretty good conversation Monday night. He said that they bought a used one. They spent, I thought he said $295,000 on it, but it was totally reconditioned. So he said it was basically a new truck other than the chassis. He said that they're buying an additional one in Clare. They already, I guess he's already ordered it, but he said he said oddly enough, they also appropriated $425,000. But he said I thought he said they're spending $390,000. He said that they were going to go with the double axle. They dropped an axle, and he said that saved them $25,000. But he also gave me the name of the company that they bought. They have two now, but they use theirs in a lot different sense than we would use ours. They use them more, I should say. I kind of found it strange. I was talking to Trustee Brown about it yesterday. They did graves with one of theirs, or that's what their intent is with this new one, is to help dig graves. Apparently they have, in their cemetery, the city cemetery, they aren't able to get in with a backhoe all the time. So he said that they dig graves with the current one they have. And like I said, the current one they have is a reconditioned one, but they're also still going to keep that. It's 8 years old, but he said they're still going to keep that. But they have they have storm sewer that they have to clean out. We don't have storm sewers. So that was why he was saying that they need two of them. But I do agree that we need one now, and I guess I will make a motion to approve the budget amendment in the amount of $425,000 to appropriate funds in the fiscal year 2021 sanitary sewer operating budget for the purchase of a Vector truck.
I will support that.
Motion by Hauk, support by Brown. Trustee Bills, I think I saw your hand.
I'm good.
Trustee Therian?
Yes, thank you, Bill, for that, what you just spoke about. That is definitely not something in my realm of expertise, so I appreciate any bit of information. I was just curious, the what is the cost for maintenance or project? I mean, I know it probably depends on what's the kind of a projected cost to the best of our ability.
Trustee Howe?
Yeah, I don't know why I don't have on my computer, why I don't have a raise hand deal. The city, when I was talking to the city public works director for the city of Mount Pleasant, he said that they just threw in $9,000, but they use theirs 8 hours a week. Well, if we're using ours 3 times that amount, we might, he said you might as well figure 27,000 a year, but he said he doesn't, he said it could be higher. He said it just depends how well the truck is maintained.
Mhm.
So they're a very expensive piece of equipment if something breaks down. I'm sure Trustee Brown knows more about that than I do.
I'll raise my hand on that. Yeah, I've done a tremendous amount of research on this issue alone, because I do work behind one of these trucks on a weekly basis. I've talked to several municipalities. I have friends in several municipalities that buy this equipment, use this equipment daily. Maintenance it depends on what kind of vehicle we're buying, guys. If we're going to buy a reconditioned vehicle, the pumps and stuff are reconditioned, but like Trustee Hope said, the chassis is going to be whatever year the chassis is. They don't recondition every part. They don't recondition that, let's say a hub in the axle or something like that. You get what you get. So you're going to have to be cautious of your warranties whatever avenue we go down. But with that being said, I talked to Scott, a friend of mine who's in Montague. He's the head of Montague wastewater and water treatment plant. Big, it's big down there, large. We have about 39 miles. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if I calculated right, about 39 miles of sanitary sewer that we're keeping a track of right now with a piece of equipment that's 25 years old. When we bought this equipment in 95, 96, the Union Township wastewater has doubled in size since we bought this piece of equipment. Now, Union Township has done a great job at maintaining this equipment. I can't believe how nice that piece of equipment looks for the age that it is. But that being said, with how small it is, with the 4.95 yard and the 1,000 gallon capacity tank, these guys are dumping this all the time. So when they're working with it, they're being cautious of how much work they're doing, because they know that they're going to have to put this back on the road within a couple hours. It becomes a safety issue, I think, then, that we have 2 trucks, 2 trailers, 4 guys on the road, a small unit. We're overworking the guys. I worked behind one of these units that we have right now 5 years ago when I worked for BGL here in town. It's a tougher unit to use. It's a tougher unit to get into tight situations. Kim Smith, I'm sure you know. You've heard these complaints with the unit that we have now. But the maintenance, and I talked, Scott, I want to circle back to Trustee Thering's question. The maintenance, Scott said his maintenance on his truck, which they maintain it. It looks like how Union Township does. They don't have a piece of dirt on anything. You can, like our wastewater treatment plant, you can walk in and eat off the floor. It's spotless, just beautiful. Their maintenance was $5,600 a year in-house, but it's an older truck. It's a 2005, and then they had about $1,000 maintenance in their shop amongst their people. So it wasn't too bad, but they maintain their equipment. So back to what Trustee Hauk said, and to try to answer Trustee Thering's question, it's all going to be how our people take care of this piece of equipment, what piece of equipment we buy. It really does. But what we're using now is extremely outdated, and Kim Smith, you should be extremely proud of what your people have done with equipment that you have out there. Coming from a person that is behind one of this type of piece of equipment pretty much 3 to 4 times a day, or 3 to 4 times a week, it's real tough to use a smaller piece of equipment to do as much work as that we're doing. Like I say, 39 miles of the sanitary sewer lines. You got 958 manholes, 19 pump station wet wells, 20 to 25 hours a week that we're behind this piece of equipment. These guys are doing a good job for what they have.
And I agree, some of that time that they're spending, those 25 hours may be decreased because they're not spending as much time hauling that piece of equipment to dump it and maneuvering it into situations. So it will help save some time there as well.
Not only time, but safety issue.
Yeah.
I've been the safety director of the last 3 companies that I've worked for. I'm a safety director, DOT safety director for a major pipeline company now that I work for. Not only being a project manager, I'm the safety director. Whenever we can keep guys off the road, that is a big plus in our industry, because that's where we get in trouble. That's where we find lawsuits. Oh, Union Township's involved in an accident, deep pockets, here they come. We've all heard it. And we just, I'm always looking at the safety aspect of this. And that's my concern with the unit that we have now. Not only about putting the guys on the road, it's the fatigue. Let's say we have an emergency and it's 2 o'clock at night, and now we have to deal with a 25-year-old piece of equipment. And I've heard a few rumblings about the maintenance of this equipment, that we have to maintain it before we go out. We have to maintain it when we come back. There's always something happening that we got to make sure that this is 100%, because we use this for emergencies. It has to be ready to go. It's like a fire truck. So you can't be down. And then when you talk about renting a piece of equipment or not borrowing, renting from one of our fellow municipalities, that's all based on relationships. We have an emergency and we have basements filling up with sewer. And I used to work for Hammer Restoration, and I've seen this. When that happens and you're based on relationships, wonder if I had a relationship with, let's just take for granted the city of Mount Pleasant, and they got upset with me, and then they said, no, their truck's busy, can't use it, and we're in trouble. That's another concern. So the more I research this, I came around like Trustee Hauk. This is definitely warranted for Union Township. The more and more I research this, the more and more I realized how much Union Township, the residents of Union Township, the employees of Union Township, and our fellow surrounding municipalities, that this truck is needed. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time.
Other hands? Trustee Thering.
Thank you. Sorry, gang. Kim, thank you so much for the time. And you obviously spent a lot of time on this, which is very helpful. So thank you. What was your process for determining that? And I understand as you're putting out for bids, you're going to learn a lot more information. I'm assuming, I mean, this is what you do, but we all learn as we're investigating what to get. But what was your process for determining the size truck that you kind of described?
We looked at the amount of sewer lines, the depths of our sanitary sewers, and the depths of our wet wells and the size of our wet wells to mainly determine what size truck. And we also had to look at the area that we had to store this truck. We have an existing utility barn, so we had to take that into consideration as well. But it's mainly based on the amount of capacity that we would need, based on the flows that are coming from, for instance, some of our larger pump stations and the size of the wet wells at those pump stations, and the depths of our sewer, because you have to be able to, it has to be effective for vacuuming. And some of our sewers are 30 feet deep, so you have to have something with enough power to handle that.
I'm assuming too, it would be also preparing for the future as we grow. And when you say we, is it you and the staff that you work with?
Right, myself and the staff that I work with. Mainly those guys that are using it every day. They, I rely on them heavily to know what they need and what will work for what they're doing.
That means a lot what you just said, because I have a supervisor who she is absolutely wonderful, and she is very supportive and helps us be more successful. But there are things that she's an expert at and that I am not. And there are things when it's boots on the ground, what parts to put on my van, that, you know, she looks at me and says, hey, asks me the question that I'm sure that you asked your staff. You know, she knows what the parts are, but every area is
Right.
different as to what you need. So I
Right.
guess,
I'm not the person out there every day using that. I mean, I see them use it, but I'm not the person out there doing that. So I do rely on them, and they make me successful. They make all of us successful because they are very good at that. And so it's very helpful. You know, we work very closely together on that. I wouldn't attempt to purchase or spec one of these out on my own because I'm not the person out there using it.
I appreciate that you included them. So I guess my just, I don't have a question. My last comment is then I ask that however you do it, that we get the right tool for the right job. Be, you know, if it's new, it's new. If that's what we need, that's what we need based on your expertise. If it's a refurbished. But we do have growing needs for this township and the sewer end of it, and the things that we use it for are only going to get bigger. So I would just ask that, as I know I don't even have to say, let's get the right tool for the right job. And thanks again, Kim.
Yes, thank you. We definitely will. The last one lasted a lot of years, so we're planning on this one doing the same.
Does it have to be put in a heated, or not heated, but you know what I mean? You wouldn't want a vac truck that holds water.
Right,
I'm sure you can empty the pumps out, but even then it would scare me if it was in a cold building.
right. We have a section of our barn that's heated that we would have to put it in.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Bills?
I'm for buying a new one. And also, I was just curious as to the age of our system versus Mount Pleasant City.
I'm sorry, Connie, I didn't hear the last part of that.
What is the difference of age in our sewer system between ours and Mount Pleasant City?
A decade,
A decade?
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so I'd be, you know,
Mount Pleasant's much older.
Yes, their system is much older than ours.
is ours bigger though?
Overall, no, the city has they have more feet of main than we do because we only do a portion of the township. We actually process about as much sewer as they do, but overall system wide, they have more main. I'm not exactly sure how many pump stations they have, but we have 20, so, or 19.
Well, anyway, I'm for buying a new one. I think that new equipment, at least we could be responsible for it at that point, and I prefer to do that. That's all I have.
I saw Trustee Brown first.
I just want to piggyback on Trustee Bill's, as far as when you were talking about buying new. I second that because of the warranty that will come along with that I believe in that we're looking at having a piece of equipment for 20 years. We have this older one for 25 years. So if you take the cost of that one and figure it out over 25 years, you're right, Trustee Bills. It really works out that sometimes when you look at the newer option, even though it's more, over a span of time with Kim Smith's crew taking care of it the way they do, we could say that it's a 20-year buy is what I was looking at, Trustee Bill. So I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying there, and I agree with you 100%.
Thanks.
Trustee Thering?
Yes, this is our first step, correct? This is not our final step. This is our first step.
Correct.
Thank you.
So I'm going to jump in before I see a hand go up. Regarding the size, Kim Smith, you mentioned that we're smaller than the city, but that we actually process more.
We-
Is is that because of square miles that we cover? We've got a lot more agricultural or larger plots.
Apartment complexes.
We process about the same as a city in sanitary sewer. I think mainly it has to do with the difference in the flows that we get from different customers.
Okay.
And we have a lot of they have a large complexes like apartment complexes, but the township has a lot of those. We have a few large users that they don't have. So I think it just all evens out in the end. They probably have more residential customers than we do. We have more commercial customers that are higher volume users.
Okay, thank you. I'll just pipe in. I don't have strong feelings, new or used. I've heard that discussion. I don't have strong feelings on that. But I do want to just lift up that our water and sewer, partly because it's so new in our township, is kind of a crown jewel of the township. And we've done such a good job of constructing and maintaining those. And a big motivation for me in supporting this motion is that we keep that to be a crown jewel of Union Township. And I'd much rather be proactive and save money up front than my assumption is, and I'd like to be corrected, Kim, if I'm wrong, Kim Smith, that by maintaining these lines, we're probably less likely to run into issues that cost us more money in the long run. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And so that's true with so many things in life, which is why I had that assumption. But all right,
It would only take one large overflow to wipe out $425,000.
that's scary.
Yes.
Oh, my
If you look
God.
at the cost to clean up a large overflow, and Jeff probably, Mr. Brown probably knows this better than anybody if he worked in that business for a while. It's very expensive to pay for those cleanups, and not to mention the inconvenience. Both
And
a
I think
cleanup that's in somebody's basement, or a cleanup that in a river or a drain or wherever it happens to go. So to maintain those lines and those facilities is very important.
it's good. And I want to thank Trustee Houck and Trustee Brown for all their work on this. And I know Trustee Houck brought this up a month ago or however long it was. And I also contacted the city, the previous public works director, and had conversation. And I was fairly convinced at that point that it was a good purchase for the township. And the other motivation for me, and I don't know, maybe I missed it if it was said, which is being able to react to those upsets that you just mentioned. And if the city's using theirs, or their crew has been extended in overtime and can't, rent their unit out to us quickly, we may not be able to respond as quickly as we should to our customers. And I would hate to be relying on somebody else to take care of our own residents and businesses.
Yeah, because one of the biggest times that you would need a piece of equipment like this is in a high rain time, or if we have a large snowfall and then a melt situation. Well, the city's going to be using theirs at that exact time because they need theirs too. So that would not be, in most of those situations, it would not be an option for us. We would have to go to somebody, maybe a local contractor, and they could be doing the same thing for privately owned systems, as far as like storm sewers and apartment complexes. When they have those high rains, they're often inside those facilities doing their own cleaning jobs, so they're not going to bring it to the township for us to use. So it's important to have during emergencies, to have it on hand.
Yeah. And I have one last question. So in the unlikely event that, let's say that the city has an emergency and their one truck is not enough, but ours is not in need, is it envisioned that the township would potentially rent ours out, much like the city does with crew?
Sure, we provide support back and forth like that when necessary now. There's been situations where we've had to use the city's Vector truck. We've used Isabella Corp's Vector truck in certain situations. We've used both of them in some situations, along with our own equipment that we have now. So yes, and especially if there was a need on their side that we could help them with, we provide that support now. all the municipalities in this area do that.
I kind of figured, but I wanted to ask the question.
Yes, we do.
Trustee
And
Cody?
it's not just Vector trucks, it's other things that we would need to
Right.
support each other on.
And I knew we did a lot of that, but I wanted to ask about this truck specifically. Trustee Cody? I'm sorry, Clerk Cody?
I just want to remind the supervisors, there's a motion on the floor, so we got to kind of move it along a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
No, we don't. We're having a discussion. It's a good discussion.
We're
It's a
staying on,
necessary discussion. It's a $425,000 discussion. So no, when we're done discussing, then we can vote.
Call the question.
You must have a second and you must have a vote.
There already is a motion.
There's a motion on the floor and there's a second.
When you call the question, you
I mean,
have
I
to
hear
have
a
a
lot of
second.
positive things about it. I think it's a good time to vote on it, is what I'm saying. And it's just to put it on the budget. It's not for the specific truck and things.
I'm okay calling the question if somebody else would like to go there.
We already have a motion and it's already been seconded.
Right. Clerk Cody's just asking that we call the vote. That we stop discussion and call the vote. Does that support Trustee Bills? I saw your
And I
hand.
just wanted to also say thanks to Trustee Hauk and Trustee Brown as well, by the way, put that on the record. And yes, call the question, whatever you want.
All right, Clerk Cody, would you do us the honors, please, for the motion by Trustee Hauk, supported by Brown, was approved budget amendment in the amount of $425,000 to appropriate funds in the fiscal year 2021 sanitary sewer operating budget for the purchase of a Vector truck. Is that correct, Trustee Hauk?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes,
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Supervisor Milky,
yes.
Clerk Cody, yes.
All right.
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Discussion. I learned from that.
I have much more information. If anybody else would like to talk to me, I have pages of information, guys. And if you'd like to come to work with me for a week, I can show you exactly how one of these work. And I'm sure Kim can take you out too and show you. So, thanks again, guys. And thank you, Kim and Mark,
Thank you.
for all the information.
I
All right.
appreciate the appropriation and the feedback, and I will say that some of the detail that you're getting into in your discussion is exactly what you pay us to take into account and consider, and that is exactly what we do. And I'm also glad to hear that the different municipalities or whatnot, different people that you contacted to confirm the administration's recommendations were in agreement, and that I know that always helps. So thank you.
Very good. That brings us to new business item B. Discuss spring 2021 2% application submissions. I'm assuming Manager Stuhldreher, you probably want to introduce this.
Yes,
Trustee
thank
Worley
you.
was-
There is no agenda packet information for this, but what we are doing here is part of governance policy. It indicates that the board, that there should be a discussion by the board prior to the administration submitting 2% applications. And so I just wanted to, and there's a deadline of March 31st for the spring 2% allocation. I anticipate that the 2% program will have a bit more money available than the fall, but still not as much as is typical, because gaming revenues would still be off a bit due to COVID and that kind of thing. At this point in time, the administration is looking at at two, possibly three applications. One is we're continuing to seek funding for pump station number 1. That's a pump station that we've been working to rehab for a couple years now. We've been out for bid twice. The numbers ended up coming back way more than what we had originally budgeted. So we went out for bid about a year later. The prices didn't come down. This is our funding partners are the utility fund, the 2% program, and EPA. We applied for funding in the fall of 20 for this project and were awarded $50,000. So that certainly helped and is appreciated. But we're going to be going back to them again this spring for additional funding because we still have a fairly sizable funding hole that we're trying to fill. And then the other application is a joint application with Deerfield Township to rehab portion of Meridian Road. And so we have the Deerfield Township Road Commission and ourselves approaching the Road Commission for the 2% program for funding for that project. Our share of that project would be $52,000. Would also be $52,000 for Deerfield. And I believe the request of the 2% is around $100,000. It might be a third and a third.
All right, can I stop you just for 1 second? Trustee Cody, are you having, or Clerk Cody, are you having trouble hearing?
I can't hear him. You said the Meridian Road project, correct? Or
Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't hear you. I don't know if it's my computer or.
No, I can hardly hear him too.
I had to turn him up.
A little quieter tonight, Mark.
Well, I think it's my system. I had trouble with that earlier today as well. And I'm trying to actually talk loud, but I apologize. So we have the Meridian Road Partnership Program. Pump station number 1. And then we're also considering requesting funding to continue with our master plan on Jameson Park. But we are also partnering on that project. We have been partnering with the EDA on that. And so at the February EDA meeting, we're going to be asking for some additional funding from the EDA. And depending on how that shakes out, will determine our ultimate application on the 2% side. So that's what we're looking to apply for this spring. And if there are no objections to that, then that's what we're going to do.
What's the total cost of the pump station number 1?
$750,000.
And how much did we get for 2% funding last year?
For both spring and fall,
Spring.
I'd have to look, which I could. I could also give you that answer tomorrow. I'll just send out a note to the board. I don't have that at the tip of my finger.
So if they gave us 50,000 for that last year, I mean, is it because we only get a certain amount and then we would have to just keep holding on to this purchase until we get enough, or?
That's often what we do with 2%. We go back many times for the same request. We're trying to build up resources for a particular project. And so sometimes we'll get an award and we have to spend it on that particular project, and so we'll just hold on to it in the 2% fund until we're ready to execute the project.
So, can you just bullet those again? It was the pump number 1, the Meridian, correct?
Right? And Jameson,
Jameson,
Jameson
Yep,
Hall.
okay, thank you. That's what I was thinking, but I just want to make sure I wasn't making that up in my head.
what else has to be done for Jameson Park, Mark?
we have all of phase 2 to do yet, which is essentially all the exterior work under that master plan. We broke it in, it's in 2 phases. One is the interior, which is being worked as
Right.
we speak. And then we have the exterior to do yet. We do have money budgeted in the general fund for a portion of that phase 2. And we're looking to get the balance of the funding for phase 2 so we can do that this year.
I'm not really familiar with the Meridian Road rehab. Is that just like doing a new road, or?
Yeah, I mean, Meridian Road is a boundary road. And so that's why there's a cost share or a joint proposal with Deerfield. And it's more of a repaving than a full reconstruction.
Is it gonna have a shoulder?
I doubt it, no.
Clerk Cody? I'm sorry, Trustee Bills, you were done?
Yes, sir.
Clerk Cody?
Did the new board receive the Jameson Hall like packet or what was to be done?
Yes,
Or okay. I don't know. I like all those 3. I think those are good projects to apply for.
I'll say that too, because I think that's what the staff is looking for, direction from us, that that's okay to move forward.
Yep, I like
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Very good. I do have to do a little bit of bookkeeping that I forgot to do earlier. My apologies. But we did get new minutes, and I just want to make sure the minutes we approved were in the consent agenda, and I realize we already approved them. But I want to make sure that everybody on this board understood that we got revised versions of those today, correct?
Yeah,
And that's what I'm assuming we were voting on in the consent agenda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Does that help, Jennifer? Okay. I wanted that on the record, public record, that what's in the packet, if the public looked at it, not the minutes that we approved. Okay.
The new minutes were.
Yeah, the new minutes were, which was just a clerical correction on a motion
Yep.
that was not filled in properly. Okay. With that, we move to new business item C. I guess I'll briefly introduce this. So in our policy governance section 3.10.3, we have policy that identifies how we go about what committees and boards should each of us be liaisons to or appointed to. For example, planning commission is by law, we can do that. But like, for example, county commission, James Therian, Trustee Therian went to county commission meeting. That was because we appointed him to do that and be a liaison to us and report back to us. And this is the policy that discusses all that. And so as I was going through making sure that we were doing all the appointments that we needed to do, it became apparent to me that this was out of date. I actually contacted Lisa, and Lisa said, I was going to change it because she wanted to put in some language regarding virtual meetings because there was nothing in there regarding that. And so Lisa and Kim and I ended up working together just to minimize the amount of time we'd have here and made some changes, suggested changes to this policy. And I thought as long as we see that it's out of date, let's fix it now. Why wait? And so the three of us got a document back and forth for a while. This is kind of what we came up with, and I could go through it. And we can either take action and move this as is or with corrections into the policy governance, or if the board doesn't want to take action now, that's fine, but I at least wanted to kind of show you what we put together. Does that make sense? Okay, so on the first page, 21 in your packet, section 1, we added the in-person or virtually, just to clarify that your attendance doesn't have to be in person if there's a virtual meeting, right? And then some of this is just simplification.
Okay.
In this case, first section, item 1 there is crossed out, and alternate shall also be appointed in case the assigned member is unable to attend. And this policy was put into place about 2014, I believe. And I don't think it's ever been the practice to appoint alternates. What we did in the last meeting is we said, hey, Connie's going to be on the tribe, Trustee Therion's going to be on county, et cetera, and we didn't appoint alternates, probably because it's fairly cumbersome. And instead, the policy says, if you're not able to attend, try to find another board or trustee member to attend in your absence. Right? So I took that out, thinking that simplified our process since we weren't following it anyways. Okay. And then what was the next paragraph I scratched out? The meeting assignments will be reviewed annually or upon request of the board, blah, blah, blah. And I just simplified that with the paragraph above it that says board committee assignments may be changed from time to time by majority vote of the board. Meaning if it's not working out for Trustee Therion to go on, which nights does county meet? Tuesdays. Something comes up where you're not able to make Tuesdays anymore, that we can make adjustments whenever we need to. Or if somebody just wants a different role to play, right? Because you wanted to experience something different. Let's see. And then I just got rid of this bottom paragraph in section 1. I thought it was redundant, not needed, because lower in the document, we actually list out each of the responsibilities that we should see. It was just simple. And then on item 2, I just took out unless section 4 applies. And this is probably the most confusing, because section 4 says township supervisor, clerk, township supervisor, clerk, and treasurer shall not receive any meeting proof attending meetings not identified in sections 10 or 11 during regular township business hours. And where this comes from is where the policy came from. So I'll give you a little quick history. Actually, was one of the co-authors of this back in 2014. And what we had back then was a policy that basically said, if you go to a meeting, you get paid $50. If it's under an hour, if it's an hour or more, you get paid $75. And we had, and I won't name names, but we had board of trustees members that would show up to a meeting 5 minutes and leave and put in for $50. And it got very expensive for the township.
Excuse me, that was prior to the last board.
Yes.
And it was 50, it was $50 and $100.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Well,
that was the 2012, 2016 board.
Okay, interesting. I didn't remember that. Thank you. And so the gist of it was being abused, and that's why this policy came into effect. As we said, we just can't have this anymore, and we thought we don't need 3 trustees going to the county meeting. If you want to go, great. But we're going to assign someone the responsibility who has the responsibility to report back to the board of what we need to know. And it was partially to minimize costs and abuse of the system. And so we had at that time, I don't want to give away names in any way. It doesn't do any good to throw somebody under the bus. But I will, I'm trying to be careful here. What's that?
I think we get it.
Okay. Let's see. And then on the last page, sections 10 and 11, we added election commission, because I felt that's kind of above and beyond. If you're having to take the time out of your day, whether if you're in that commission, then you ought to be compensated for taking that time.
That's cool.
And then board of review was actually put in place by the last board. It just wasn't part of the document. Remember that for those that were on the board before? Okay. And then sidewalks and pathways was not a committee we really had before, so it wasn't in here. And those are the changes. Clerk Cody, Treasurer Rice, did I misarticulate any of the thoughts we had? Or would you like to add something?
No, basically, especially with like the board committee assignments ones, one of the things we had talked about is the fact that the previous verbiage had said every 3 months that you shall change positions and one of the things we had talked about was some of these boards, you're just getting to understand everything going on. And it would not make any sense to change after 3 months. And so that was just one of the reasons behind that change right there is, it wasn't usually, we didn't really change anyway. Those 3 months, it was in the document, but it was never really enforced. And so, we wanted to make sure that what's in the document would be enforced, basically.
And the history to that too, the original intent of that language was we thought everybody's going to want the full breadth of experience, so you get the bigger picture. Makes sense. In practice, it became more difficult to do, and I would hope if anybody feels like they need to move from their appointment, that we can have that discussion and look at rearranging those appointments as necessary. Clerk Cody, anything? Trustee Howe?
I'll make a motion that we make the changes to policy governance 3.10.3.
Or
I heard motion by Hauk. I heard support by Trustee Bills first. Is that okay? I think
that works.
any further discussion?
I do like that elections one.
Yeah.
Well, because it's always during the middle of the day and you got to take time off of work to go to it.
Yeah.
That was exactly my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing because I went to a couple of those last year.
Yeah.
And I thought I got to take off work. Exactly. So, well, we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Clerk Cody?
Clerk Cody, yes. Supervisor Melky.
Yes.
Trustee Thering.
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Trustee Bills.
Yes.
Trustee Hauk.
Yes.
Treasurer Rice.
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you very much. And with that, we move to item 11 on our agenda, which is extended public comment. This is restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue. This is not an opportunity this is an opportunity for comments only. Questions of the board will not be answered this time. For specific answers to questions, please call Township Hall at 989-772-4600. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. With that, we'll open up extended public comment at 8:14 p.m. And I'm not really seeing anybody else in the public, correct?
No.
So with that, we'll close extended public comment at 8:15 p.m. and we'll give the floor to our manager for his comments.
Thank you. And I turned my speakers down, hoping that might help my volume. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Clerk
great.
Cody.
Better now.
Yeah, it sounds better.
I just have two, particularly for, I guess, the newer board members. Annually around March, there's a meeting between the Board of Trustees and the Road Commission. And due to COVID, that will not be an in-person meeting this year. I don't even think it's going to be a Zoom meeting. They're going to provide us a packet of information. Haven't received it yet. But then when I do, I'll make sure I get it distributed to all of you. And then we can, we'll have an opportunity to discuss it at a board meeting. Normally it covers, that there's a PASER rating that they rate the roads in the township by good, bad, terrible. And they also speak to any recommendations on our gravel roads that they think we ought to be looking at refurbishing. We should be in pretty good shape in that area though, because we have about 25 miles of gravel road. We've been doing at least 4 miles a year for the last 5 years, so we should be pretty good shape this time around. But I just want to let you know that that meeting will not be held this year, but we will still cover the content that we normally would. And then the other thing is I will again be out of the office the last week in February, the first week in March. That's 2 weeks in a row. During the first week, Finance Director Teal will be acting Township Manager. And then the second week, Public Services Director Smith will be acting Township Manager. And for some of you newer folks, you'll find over time that I end up taking most of my vacation in the winter, whereas many people take it in the summer. I end up taking a lot of it in the winter. So that's why, and due to the winter this year, haven't been able to spread it out as much as in the past. But at any rate, those are my only comments, so thank you.
There's warm winds coming in. So I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah. So just a quick question, and Trustee Houck, maybe you know the answer to this too, to our manager though. So I'm assuming we won't know construction costs or cost of gravel, et cetera, until that time. Have we heard what construction costs are going to be like this season yet?
No.
No, we haven't.
Okay. And I asked partially because of the McGurk subdivision. I know that could have an effect on that, as well as our budget, but
That they are opening some bids, I think tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And so that they have communicated to us, at least specific to the McGurk special assessment, after they open the bids and do what they do with those, they'll be getting back to us with the final costs on that project.
wonderful. Any other questions for our manager? Seeing none, we'll move to item 13, final board member
Trustee
comments.
Bills had her hand up a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Trustee Bill?
okay, I just wanted to know if you had a nice vacation, Mark.
I did, thank you. It was good to be outside for a few days.
We got his snow he wanted.
Hey,
All right. So item 13, final board member comment. I started at the top last time. I'll start at the bottom this time. Clerk Cody.
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Therian.
I'm good, thanks.
Trustee Bills.
I'm gonna just pipe in one more time. We talked about that. Well, I asked a question last time. I don't think I got the answer I wanted, but it is the township required to try to find 2 different prices for an item before they buy it? I don't know that I got an answer for that. I got a response via email that said we're happy with that vendor. But I don't know, and I don't know if there's any board support for any kind of policy change on that. But look, I know that corporations, you have to find the best price you can get. That's all I have to say.
I'd like to follow up on that, Trustee Bills, briefly. And not that I can give you the answer to that, but as we looked at goals and whatnot, I was wanting to look at our purchasing policy, because I have a real affinity towards spending local, especially tax dollars. And if it costs a little more to spend tax dollars local, I'd rather spend them on our own community. That'll pay dividends. And so I think we have thresholds for, and manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have thresholds for when we need to go out or not to bid, or we may have preferred vendors that we have a relationship with that we're sticking with for whatever reason. We don't necessarily be bidding unless we feel we need to, or we do it on a periodic basis. I don't know if that helps at all. But
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help me. I don't buy that. Sorry. I don't buy paying double because it's a local company. I don't buy that.
Oh, I'm not saying double at all. I'm not saying, but I would pay. I'll throw something out. 10%.
Nobody's checking. That's what I'm saying, Supervisor. Nobody's checking.
No, and I agree, and I would like to clarify that too, so that we all know what that is, because I have issues about it. We're watching tax dollars. That's our number one responsibility, is to be fiscally responsible. And what do we determine that to be? So I think your concern's valid.
Thank you, sir.
Question. Trustee Hauk.
I've got a couple things. First of all, I'd like to thank Sherry Teal for helping update the phone system. I've tried to call in a few times to talk to Rodney, and I didn't have his extension number because it wasn't listed. And then the old trustees' names were listed. None of the new board of trustees' names were listed. So I was talking to Sherry one day last week, and Sherry said she'd get on it, and I'll tell you what, about 2 hours later, she called me back and said she had it taken care of. So thank you, Sherry. I just like to, I know I've asked a couple of times about solar panels. I'd like to see us check and see whether they're worth getting for the wastewater treatment plant and maybe the water treatment plant. I'd like to get some more answers on a dumpster contract. Being Declare Services is right next to the water treatment plant now. I mean, like I said, I can hit a golf ball from his office to the water treatment plant. Wouldn't want to hit a car going across the highway, but whatever. And then another thing that I know we've talked about, I don't like using my personal laptop for this stuff. And I'm using my personal laptop because of the Surface that I was given to from the township. I don't even know how to work the thing anymore. The audio isn't working on it, and I've lost video on it. And I know that we had requested information whether, we were possibly going to purchase some laptops for all the board members. So I'd just like some answers on that by the next meeting. Thank you.
Trustee Brown.
Yeah, just a couple things. Just piggyback. One of them was just what Mr. Hauk, Trustee Hauk, just mentioned, going back to the paperless issue. I'd like to. I definitely am very interested in more research on that. So as we move further with electronics for the board and going paperless. Also, one other thing I think is, and we mentioned this, and Mark said, yeah, and once the weather got better, I really want to keep this site visit of our capital investments for Union Township. I would really like, I've seen most of them. I've been to the water towers, all that, but the wastewater treatment plant and the other facilities, like where we're going to keep this new truck, our buildings, things like that. I would love to keep this site visit for us new trustees on the map if we could. And then I just wanted to mention this meeting with the discussion and what Trustee Thering mentioned about how it was a great conversation. That was outstanding tonight, you guys. Just outstanding how we dealt with what we had to deal with. I feel very proud to be part of this board. That's it. Thank you.
Treasurer Rice?
To piggyback on Trustee Hauk, I agree with the paperless. I've been trying since day one. So I'm looking forward to the information on that. And then the one topic that everybody just loves hearing about is taxes due 16th. I'm going to reiterate it. Get those in so I don't have to put fees and penalties on your taxes, people. So that's it.
Very good. And I'll piggyback on Treasurer Rice related to taxes. If you want to appeal your assessment, March 8th and 9th from noon to 7:30, details to come will be the dates that we'll have the public appeal hearings for that. With that, I'm happy to take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
I'm not seeing discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Hearing no objection, we're adjourned. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.